He wasn't invited to be respected. He was invited to be laughed at. In a room filled with wealth, crystal chandeliers, and whispers that dripped with arrogance, a 17-year-old boy sat across from a millionaire's polished ivory chessboard. They thought it would be a harmless joke, a game to remind him of his place. But they didn't know what he carried in his mind, or the years of quiet battles he'd already fought in a world that didn't believe in him. What happened next would humiliate the powerful, inspire the forgotten, and prove that brilliance has no social class. Lucas had grown up in the quiet shadow of privilege. Not his own, but the privilege he served. His mother, Rosa, worked as a live-in maid for one of the wealthiest women in the city, Evelyn Harper. The Harper mansion was a world of polished marble floors, silk curtains, and rooms so large they seemed to swallow sound. Lucas knew every corner of it, not as a guest, but as the maid's son who learned to stay out of sight. School was his escape, but even there, the unspoken lines between wealth and poverty followed him. He didn't have the latest sneakers or the money for after-school clubs, but he had something no one saw coming, an obsession with chess. For 8 years, he had studied books from the library, replayed Grandmaster's games on a second-hand board, and practiced until midnight at the kitchen table. Still, to Evelyn and her circle, he was just the helps boy. That summer evening, her mansion was crowded with powerful guests. Politicians, investors, people who measured worth in dollars and last names. Lucas had no reason to be in that room, but an offhand remark, dripping with condescension, pulled him into the center of it. The game wasn't meant to be fair. It was meant to remind him where he stood. The laughter started before Lucas even sat down. Not the warm kind that fills a room, but the sharp, knowing kind laughter meant to cut. Evelyn Harper's voice carried across the polished marble hall, a performance for her friends. She gestured to the ornate chess table at the center of the room, its squares carved from black onyx and ivory, each piece heavy enough to feel like a small weapon in the hand. "Let's see what Rosa's boy can do," she said, as if the very idea was a joke worth sharing. The guests leaned in, their jewelry catching the chandelier light, their eyes bright with the anticipation of an easy win at someone else's expense. Lucas felt the weight of every gaze. It wasn't just about chess, it never was. This was about reminding him that in their world, he was an outsider who should be grateful just to be in the room. The first move came quickly from Evelyn, her manicured fingers tapping the piece as if impatient for the game to be over. Lucas studied the board, calm but calculating. He wasn't here to entertain them. He was here because he'd been challenged, and because somewhere deep inside, he wanted them to see what they had never bothered to look for. With every move, the room shifted. The smirks turned into narrowed eyes. The casual chatter died down. Evelyn's friends leaned closer, their wine glasses stilled midair, watching the board instead of their hostess. Lucas could feel it, the moment when amusement began to twist into discomfort. He was setting traps, forcing her into positions she couldn't see until it was too late. Evelyn's hand hovered over her next move longer now, her confidence slipping. And then came the moment he'd been waiting for. A flawless combination, learned years ago from a faded library book, that cornered her queen with no escape. The silence in the room was almost electric. Evelyn's lips tightened. Her friends exchanged glances, some pretending to be amused, others struggling to hide their surprise. But the game wasn't over, and Lucas knew this was the point where people like Evelyn got dangerous. Losing to him wasn't just losing. It was humiliation in front of her entire circle. And humiliation had a way of turning sharp. Somewhere in the room, a camera phone appeared, recording every move. Lucas caught the glint of the lens, and for a split second, he wondered if this would be the moment his life changed. Whether for better or worse, he didn't yet know. The next move would decide everything. Evelyn's next move sealed her fate. Lucas saw it instantly. A blunder so fatal it would unravel her entire defense in less than 5 moves. He executed his plan with precision, each piece clicking against the board like the steady ticking of a clock counting down to an inevitable end. The murmurs in the room grew louder. Guests leaned forward, no longer pretending this was harmless fun. Evelyn's perfectly composed mask began to crack. Her cheeks flushed, her jaw clenched, This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to lose, especially not to the maid's son. Especially not here, in front of everyone who defined her social world. Then it happened, checkmate. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then scattered gasps. The camera phones were no longer discreet. They were aimed directly at Lucas, capturing the image of a young black man calmly dismantling the pride of one of the city's most powerful women. Evelyn's hands trembled as she reached for her wine glass. Her eyes didn't meet his. In that moment, the air in the room changed. Lucas knew the match was over, but the real battle was just beginning. Because in circles like this, public humiliation was unforgivable, and Evelyn Harper was the kind of woman who would never forget it. A voice cut through the tension, measured, authoritative. Congresswoman Laura Bennett, standing near the fireplace, had been watching from the very first move. She stepped forward, her gaze locked on Lucas, not with pity, but with recognition. "You've got something special, son," she said. The room froze. Everyone knew that tone. It was the voice of someone about to change a life or a narrative. Lucas had no idea what would come next. But Evelyn did. And for the first time all evening, she looked afraid. That night ended with polite applause from a few guests, awkward laughter from others, and Evelyn Harper disappearing behind the double doors of her study, her pride shattered. But for Lucas, the moment didn't fade when the last car pulled away from the mansion's driveway. The following week, a video of the match went viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and countless headlines about the maid's son who humbled a millionaire. But the attention wasn't just about chess. It was about the symbolism. A young black man, underestimated, mocked, and treated as a novelty, had turned the tables in the very space meant to keep him small. Congresswoman Laura Bennett kept her word. Within months, Lucas was offered a full scholarship to Stanford University. 6 months later, he was not just a student. He was the founder of a free chess program for underprivileged kids, teaching them the same skills that had changed his life. Evelyn's world, however, unraveled. Invitations stopped arriving. Her name was whispered in embarrassment, not admiration. The social ladder she once stood atop crumbled beneath her. But this was never just about one game of chess. It was about every door slammed shut before someone even has the chance to prove themselves. About the quiet prejudices that shape opportunities and the courage it takes to defy them. Lucas's victory was more than a checkmate. It was a reminder. Talent, intelligence, and worth don't come from the weight of a bank account or the prestige of a last name. So the question is, how many more Lucases are out there right now, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the world to stop underestimating them? Before you go, what did you think of Lucas's journey from being mocked to proving himself on the grand stage? Stories like this remind us how powerful determination can be against prejudice. If you believe more people need to hear stories that challenge injustice, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so others can be inspired too.